Coming to you from across the multiverse, this is the Marvel Infinity Rewatch Podcast. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Marvel Infinity Rewatch Podcast, where we are rewatching the most successful movie franchise in history from the very beginning. I am your host, Mo, and I'm joined this week by Corey Roy from the Geek Spot TV. Corey, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing awesome, man. I'm really happy to be here, Mo.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for agreeing to come talk about this movie. And we're gonna just kind of dive in and talk about. I argue maybe one of the best intro stories in the MCU. So this week we're gonna punch Hitler in the face 200 times with Captain America, the first Avenger. And so let's get right into this. This is a movie that came out 2011. It was directed by Joe Johnston, who you may remember was the director of The Rocketeer, and that will be important
Mm.
later on when we start talking about what this movie is all about. It's starring Chris Evans, who used to be Johnny Storm. And also, I first remember him when he was in what was it? A parody movie of teen movies, not another teen movie. So he was, but no one thought, oh, Captain America, but there he was. He is Captain America, of course. Also stars, it also stars Tommy Lee Jones, Hugo Weaving, Haley Atwell. You got Sebastian Stan coming in as Bucky Barnes, Toby Jones. I mean, there's a bunch of people in this movie, and I would argue as the fifth movie in the franchise, this burgeoning franchise, coming in 2011, it also is a vital stepping stone to, I would say, and I think many people would agree, is the most important film in the MCU. There are many that came after that were more successful, but of course, I'm talking about 2012's Avengers. But this was literally the stepping stone into Avengers. What was this movie about? Why were they doing this? And who is Captain America? Who is Steve Rogers? What's up with him?
Yeah, you said a lot of the things that I go right behind. This is a very important movie. Who would have ever thought that, Chris Evans would have been such a great Captain America? But this movie is literally about Steve Rogers, who wants to join the military and do the fight for all this stuff that's going on during World War II. Except nobody wants him because he's not the soldier type. But he
Mm-hmm.
wants to join it, and he winds up being picked for the super soldier program, and transforms into Captain America and winds up joining the fight against what you could say the Nazis, but it's really Hydra, a Nazi supported organization. So,
No,
but
that's
I
not.
love this. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a period piece. It's also it's a bit more than that. Yeah, I like to look at these movies like what was good, what was great about it, what was bad, what was
Hmm.
weird about this, because this is the MCU. There's a lot of weird in this, but the good. I was saying Joe Johnston was the director for this, who directed The Rocketeer. There's so much Rocketeer DNA in this movie. I mean, I
Mm.
love that movie as a kid. There's a ton of it. There's also a lot of Indiana Jones in it. Did you notice that? It's a very Indiana Jones-ish feel to this movie, especially if you go and look
Mm.
look at the most recent Dial of Destiny. I mean, there's some bits in there, and you're like, that is straight from Captain America, right? And there's also, there. So I said Indiana Jones. There's a little Star Wars in it too. There's a little Star Wars. So and the
Mm.
Matrix. There's a lot of like stuff going on. Because remember, this is 2011 when this came out. But
Yeah.
funny enough, Joe Johnston, not only he directed, yes, he did direct The Rocketeer, but he also worked on VFX for Indiana Jones, all the
Mm.
Indiana Jones movies, and the Star Wars original trilogy. So it makes sense, right? So you get some of that feel to it. It's really
Makes a lot of sense.
it's really beautiful. Like it's interesting to me that this movie feels like all those movies a little bit, It
Mhm.
feels pulpy. It feels sci-fi. It feels like kind of a little otherworldly. It's like it's 10 years in the future, but it's in the 40s. There's all this stuff going on
Mhm.
in it. And even though you can see the green screen and like the weird kind of like soundstage effects, it's not bothersome because of how larger than life Hydra is, and how larger
Mhm.
than life some of the stuff that's, and how larger than life that Steve Rogers is.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. I mean, are you feeling me on this the good parts?
Absolutely, man. I think there's so much good with this film. I mean, you are bringing gems and jewels that I had no idea about the director. No
Hmm.
idea that he did The Rocketeer and the effects in Star
Hmm.
Wars. So when you bring that up, it's like, man, it makes sense on the aesthetic of this film, the way it looks, the character. This film has a lot of that. And that's what one of the main things I really like about this film, that it is a period piece. You can clearly feel like you're in the 1940s,
Hmm.
but it gives you that feel of this futuristic stuff to it when you're with Hydra and the stuff that you're doing with the program and the super soldier serum and all that. I can, as soon as you say that now, I can look at this film and tell why it is the way it is. And I think you're right. This film is one of the most important, if not the important and pivotal film for this franchise. And I think one of the main things this film is so great is because of Chris Evans.
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, his performance and what he's a standout. Definitely. I did want to also call out one of my good things, Haley Atwell. I love Haley
Oh,
Atwell anyway, but she kills it. She is Agent Carter. Uh, but we'll talk about a little more in the performances. What was something bad about the movie though that you felt like just didn't hit?
I had to really think about this, Mo,
Mhm.
but when I rewatched it, I would say the thing that was bad, and I had to make a note on this, that I would have liked more of the Howling Commandos. I
Yes.
felt
Yeah.
that we just got a very little bit of them. We really didn't get enough background. We didn't get enough story. And honestly, if you didn't even know who the Howling Commandos was, you wouldn't even have known anything about
Right.
them. But they're in the movie, but they don't showcase them enough. That's the thing that I think is missing in this movie. I would have loved to
Hmm.
see more time with him in the Howling
Are you
Commandos because they had good actors for them, but we never got a
are
chance to
you
see
you
those
mean you mean
performances.
you mean the woke commandos, the howling woke commando? There's a lot of there's some brown people in there. Are you sure that's okay?
I know we
But
these.
even though canonically the Howling Commandos did have one black member, and here's a surprise: he's a musician.
Okay.
All right, Stan and Jack. All right. uh, so yeah, I think for me the bad, and this wasn't even just bad. I understood, but kind of the Nazi erasure from this movie, I was like, that's weird. Like they would be like,
Mm,
oh, punch fake Hitler, but actually I'm trying to go after Hydra, and they really kind of sidestepped a lot of the terribleness of World War II by being like, yeah, the Nazis were bad, but actually Hydra, they're weirdos that are doing strange sciency things. Let's
yeah.
deal with. I'm like, okay, but like it's no, I'm sorry. Stop trying to make the Nazis not real.
Right. 'Cause the whole reason Captain America is what it is because the comic came out in the 1940s
Right.
for that reason.
Yeah.
So they needed to showcase that.
Yeah, it was weird. So, and speaking of weird, little man Steve Rogers looking like he came straight off of that Wayans Brothers movie. I was, I was
Oh yeah. The skinny guy, the
I
big head.
yeah, I kept expecting him to hold his hand like up.
Pick him up like a kid and
Yeah.
bring him across.
I was like, y'all crazy for that. It was weird when I saw it the first time, when I first saw it in the
Yeah.
movie, but I rolled with it. But I'm like, that stands out. I can't wait till he get to big old swole Steve Rogers.
Yeah. It was like they were purposely trying to make that
Yeah,
contrast, but it was a little too much,
that was too. I was like, man, that shit don't even look right.
I know he wasn't even Steve Rogers, he was Baby Rogers.
It
Yo.
was
I don't know
weird.
what.
It's so strange. And then a movie
You
with a
know
lot
what?
of strange stuff. I was like, that's the strangest, man.
I agree. I agree. I would say another weird thing for me, which I kind of just roll with it because I read the comics, how he throws the shield and it comes back. I've just always said to myself, like, that's not supposed to happen. But I roll with it because it's the comics, and I'm just like, it is what it is. But it's really weird how he can throw a shield and it comes back
I
to him.
love
I
how
never
somebody
understood that.
I love how somebody literally threw it to him like a frisbee. And I was like, we do an ultimate frisbee right in this.
They did.
Oh my god, that was good stuff. In your mind, what where does this fit within the MCU's not just timeline, but its importance?
I think we said it earlier. I mean, I think the main thing with this movie is even though it's the fifth movie, I think it came at the right point in the right moment because it's right before we get into Avengers. You needed this movie because look, you can't have the Avengers without the leader. You need Captain America, and this movie had to stick the landing big time. And I think that's why they waited until it was the fifth installment because they really needed to make sure they got it right,
Mm-hmm.
and they did. It to me next to Iron Man. I think it is one of the best, if not the best, origin story that I've ever seen. Because I'm not a Captain America fan. But I became such a fan after watching this film because it hit the landing and stuck it.
Yeah, it's important. I think, as you said, it's a great origin story. It's important as in terms of setting up Avengers. It also is very important because it introduced several elements that were going to be important throughout. Uh, we saw the very first Infinity Stone in the form of the
Hmm.
Tesseract, uh, which was the Space Stone.
Hmm.
Introduced Captain America as a man out of time. That's going to be, of course, a pivotal leader of the Avengers.
Hmm.
It confirmed what we kind of heard from Thor about how the Asgardians affected Midgard. They literally brought the stone to Earth, and then
Hmm.
introduced Bucky Barnes, who we know later on is going to be hugely important
Yes.
to Captain America, to the MCU in general. So very very important movie setting up the Avengers. Do you remember the first time you watched this? I mean, this it's been a
Yes.
while. I have to
Yeah.
say, I vaguely remember going to see this. It came out in 2011. I vaguely
Yeah.
remember going to see this. I remember going and enjoying it, but I could not tell you it actually was when I went to see it. How about you?
I actually do, which is kind of sad that it's 2011, but I did not go to the movie theaters. I actually rented it at Redbox. If you guys don't know Redbox,
Red. What's
Redbox.
a it's you said a DVD from Redbox. All right, we
That's how.
showing our age here. All
I
right.
know it, but that's how, because I didn't want to go to the movie theaters. I was not a big Captain America fan, but I went to Redbox because look, back then you could get it for $1 at
Yeah.
Redbox. So I was in the grocery store. I'm coming out and I'm like, you know what? It's the holidays. Let me just go ahead and check it out because it's only $1. And that was my first experience, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, it was probably around October. I would say November of
Hmm.
2011 when I checked it out, and I was glad I did.
I saw it in the theater. I definitely did. This was about the time when people were actually starting to be like, "Oh wait, a Marvel film's coming out. Let me go check it out." So it was this was
Hmm.
the snowball of success was starting to happen for the MCU at that time. It
Hmm.
was very very good. It starting to the event films. I want to talk about standout scenes to you. What was your standout scene in this movie?
There are a couple, and I may the scene where I think is important, where he transforms into Captain America. I think that's
Hmm.
one. I think that's a big standout scene. Him coming out of there, looking the way he looks, Haley Atwell wanting to touch him. That was all improv. She didn't.
Yeah,
That was all part. They caught her.
that was thirsty Atwell right in that moment.
Yes,
Oh my
yes,
god!
yes. She caught herself. She pulled her hand back. She was like, "Oh Lord." Um, I'm a sucker for movie montages.
Hmm.
So I loved when they did the throwback to kind of, it was a callback to like the original Captain America with the campiness, the
Hmm.
colors, the vibrancy. I love that montage because to me it reminded me so much of a parallel to the comics and how Captain
Hmm.
America was supposed to be this person that was help rise people up against the Nazis, and so
Hmm.
him doing this show was to kind of encourage people to go out for the war for the same thing, the way the comics were back then in the
Right.
1940s. So I love that whole montage. I'm a sucker for montages. And I do like the scene at the very end when he's talking to Peggy on the plane when the
Oh
plane's
yeah,
about to
yeah.
land.
That was
So,
that's the beauty of these earlier one. Like I think some superhero movies lose sight of the fact that the human connection is important, and you got to tell an emotional story. And
mhm,
I totally 110% believe the Peggy and Steve connection. Like it's they. I believe that they were a misconnection, right? And
mhm.
that they really wanted it to happen, but circumstances just got in the way. So I really did. I did love that too. For me though, I'm gonna tell. I had an honorable mention. I'm not gonna go into it, but when Steve is leading the 107th back from the Hydra base,
Mm,
that was really cool. I enjoyed that. But this to me is the scene that says everything you need to know about Captain America, and it comes early on in the movie. Um, because we know Steve's a good stand up dude. He wants to fight. He wants to go serve his country. It's in his blood, right? But the moment when he jumps on that grenade, that fake grenade,
mm,
and all the other so-called promising candidates run away, and he jumps on immediate, not doesn't think about it, doesn't ask. He there, I'm on it.
yeah.
Get away, get away. That to me, I love this movie. I've seen plenty of, I've seen it plenty of times. I like lots of scenes in it. I think they're really cool.
Mhm.
The moment that makes me jump up and Arsenio Hall, that is this
Yeah.
scene because that's
Mhm.
Steve Rogers to me. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to know why Steve Rogers is that dude, why he is Captain America, you want to know why
Mhm.
he is that dude, that's the scene. That tells you
Yeah.
everything you need to know about him. I love that scene so much. I could watch it a million times. Like it's to me, that's when he became Captain America, not just not as in my eyes, but in the eyes of Colonel Phillips, who did not believe
Mm,
in him at all. Love it,
none.
love it.
Yeah.
Great scene.
Yo, you right. Ding, ding, ding. Circle gets the square. If you had to pick a scene to identify that's Cap, you hit it. Yeah, that's it.
That's absolutely Cap. Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, to you, what was the standout performance in this movie?
Well, I'm sure you're going to hit on some, but for me personally, I got to give a lot of credit to Hugo Weaving.
Mm,
I thought he did a fantastic job playing the Red Skull. I really
yeah.
did. I felt he was a Red Skull. I love the way he portrayed him, the way he
Hmm.
talked, the way he moved. I thought he was fantastic. So, and plus Hugo Weaving is just so damn good anyway.
Yeah.
But to plead the Red Skull, I was like, he nailed it for me. And in order to have a really good protagonist or hero you after, you have to have a good villain. And
Right.
I think Hugo Weaving was a standout performance for me, along with a lot of others. But he's just one person I pick out.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I will agree with you about Hugo Weaving. That was fantastic, especially because
Yeah.
he went out of his way to make sure that accent was on point. So I
Oh,
really love
yes.
that. But I have to give it to Chris Evans.
Yeah.
My,
Yeah.
I mean, why? How can't you? He is fantastic as Steve.
Mhm.
There's a reason why to this day people are still. I mean, and they're shitting on, Sam Wilson. Okay, fine, whatever. He's going to be a great Captain America. But there's part of it is Chris Evans is just so damn good at it. He is so earnest.
Yeah.
And he is the thing about it is that he has to act in two different bodies, right? He had to bulk up and get huge, right? Well, okay, cool.
Hmm.
But he had to play small Steve Rogers, and he's the
Hmm.
same guy from one to the other. Muscles, whatever. He's that guy. It's all in the facial performances, how he moves. He never moves differently, small or
Hmm.
big,
Hmm.
and he just embodies Captain America in such a great way. He's able to do smaller, more intimate scenes like with Peggy. He's able to do bigger ones where he's punching the shit out of Red Skull or various people. I mean, he
Yeah.
does it all.
Yeah.
He is magnificent. I love him so much in this role.
Yeah.
He was born to play Captain America. Let's just call it
I
what it
agree.
is.
There are certain people that are
Absolutely
just born to
wonderful.
play it,
Yeah,
and that was him.
he does the range,
Mhm.
and he endears you to the character. and he's aspirational in the way. And I would even say, and hey, y'all can come at me if you want to, but I think he is to Captain America the way Chris Reeves was to Superman. It's just
Oh my God.
he's just there.
Yes,
He's just there. I mean, I love it. So,
I can agree with you on that. 100%. No,
uh,
1000%. I can agree
and-
with you on that.
yeah, he's on it. So, so what about that ending though? Was this a Marvel ending? Was this a Marvel ending? What do you think?
Okay. I I do not think it's your typical Marvel ending that you get later on, where it's a lot of CGI and special effects and all that. It's a lot more subtle because it's specific to the story. So I like that ending. So I do think it's a kind of a typical Marvel ending for the very early on films,
Hmm.
like Iron Man. It wasn't a big spectacle, but this is really a small, very tight ending, and not a lot of spectacle, not a lot of CGI, not a lot of effects.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's a typical ending for that, but I think it's a typical ending for all of Marvel films where it sets up the next film.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like, and this movie really sort of has two endings, right? It
Mhm.
has, it has the ending of the period piece, and then has the ending of the movie itself, in
Yeah.
the present day. So in that sense, no, it doesn't have a typical Marvel ending, but the finale, it doesn't even have a typical Marvel finale because it's
Mhm.
very personal. This is a
Mhm.
personal ending. So it's not, a bunch of people shooting lasers at each other, even though there is some laser shooting. You know, it's him versus the Red Skull, and that, it's him just kind of doing his heroic thing. He's
Yeah.
there by himself, and he's facing essentially his polar opposite, right? This,
Mhm.
and I will say that this does continue the unfortunate trend of the hero fighting a villain that has his powers, basically. But that being said, it's ideological opposites. There's a lot more personal, a lot more personality, a lot more personal stuff involving them facing off against each other. It's not just pew pew whatever. It's that we see later on, and I
Right.
really enjoy that. And it also, they add an emotional part to it with the whole Peggy and
Yes.
Steve's last words to each other. It's really, I mean,
Yeah.
it's really nice. And they, of course, they're going to later on pay that off years down the line and ending
Hmm.
it. Loved it. I think it's a really good ending, actually.
I do too.
What about that credit scene? This is not. It only has one post credit scene. And what did you think about it?
All right, so it's kind of interesting. I was trying to think, is the post credit scene the one where he comes to the future, or is the post credit scene the one where Sam Jackson comes and sees him?
Well, that's interesting. It's the post credit scene is an ad for Avengers.
For the Avengers. I
it's,
know.
it's an ad for Avengers. It's literally just a trailer for, because you notice that little post credits, and we're sitting up there in the seats
Yes.
like, what's next, right? What's the stinger? And the stinger was literally just a scene from Avengers that we were going to see the
Yes.
next year. I
Yeah.
this is so unique, and you can tell
Hmm.
this is pre Disney. This is when they were still with Paramount, because
Yeah.
that was very so odd. I mean, I was just like, that's not a stinger. You're just showing us footage from the next movie. That's okay.
Yes. Yes.
So it's
And
it's yeah,
it did pay off. I felt it did pay off because when it got to the Avengers, I was like, because the Avengers was almost a year later.
yeah,
I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's the scene where Sam, where
yeah,
Sam Jack, well, I can't call him Sam Jackson, Nick Fury showed up. So it was a nice way of tying it in. But
right,
yeah, it really was just a trailer for the next movie coming out.
yeah,
But the trailer was damn good though.
right, yeah. No, it was good. I was just like, that's not a real end credit scene. So,
No, it's not really.
um,
It was just here's your trailer.
yeah, and I do want to note one last thing. So for the Stan Lee watch, we definitely saw him as a general. He's as a general at the White House, looking good in his dress uniform. So good old
Yeah,
Stan
yeah.
Lee. Where would the MCU be without him? Love
Man,
love
those
Stan
cameos.
love Stan the man, of course. All right, so Corey, now that we've said all of that, what is your rating Out of 6 Infinity Stones, where would you rate Captain America: The First Avenger?
Um, I I struggle with this, but I am going to rate it 4 out of 6 Infinity Stones. I struggle with this, but I had to think about what's 6 Infinity Stones to me,
Hmm.
and then what's five. And if I could have gave a 4.5, I would, but I can't because there's no such thing as 4.5 Infinity Stones. So I had to give 4 Infinity Stones, but it was really close to five, but I gave it four.
Right. I hear you. I'm gonna go 5 Infinity Stones out of 6, or five, 5 Infinity Snaps out of 6, because this is a amazing movie. Like, I've seen this many times. It's still, it holds up. It's great, and so many, and probably because it hits the things I love. I love in Indiana Jones. I love the Rocketeer. I love Pope. Pope. Sci-fi stuff like that. It hits all of those things. I just love it. Probably this gets an extra half Infinity Stone just because I am enamored with Haley Atwell, and she is
Oh,
phenomenal
who
in
you
this
telling?
movie. So
Yeah.
that's probably what it's going to be. Definitely 5 out of 6 Infinity Stones. So any let's go final thoughts on this movie, Captain America: The First Avenger. A To me, definitely one of the top tier movies in the MCU. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think it's one of the top tier movies, one of the best origin stories of all of the MCU. I think this whole movie is on Chris Evans' back, and that's why it's so good because he's an outstanding performer, and the
Mhm.
supporting cast with him is just as good. Nobody phoned it in. Nobody. Even people that had small roles to big roles, they nailed it and they went 1,000%, and it shows. And I gotta get up to the director for keeping this a contained film and really making it nice. And just gotta get it for Chris Evans, man, because it's on him. And if he
Mhm.
doesn't land this, the movie doesn't work. And it worked tremendously because then we get the Avengers, and
Right.
we know the history from that.
Yeah. And I also want to say, yeah, shout out to Joe Johnston, you know, of course, for directing this, to Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who they had put their pens to
Mm.
many good Marvel movies. Most notably for Infinity War and Endgame, but also they worked on the other Captain America movies. So
Oh,
they really, as black folks like to say, they put their ankle in this, because this thing,
yes.
this was hitting, and it hits across. Let me say, it hits across the board. Everybody likes
Yes.
this movie. Everybody likes this movie. If you don't like this movie, I mean, maybe you're Martin Scorsese or something. I don't know. I mean, that's the only way I could think of it, is you don't. I mean, you just don't like cool stuff. But like, no, this movie is great. I love it. I think it is absolutely essential to the rise of the MCU. It set the pace, set the tone. Like Iron Man, it started off. But if this is a relay, hey, this is the anchor leg.
Absolutely.
Trying to get to Avengers, and absolutely makes you like it. Once it set the table, Avengers is for the feast. So enjoyed it a lot. But you know what? We love it. What did you guys think about it? What everybody in the audience think about this movie? We want to hear from you, hear what you got to say about it. So you can hit us up on social media. It's blurred_force1 on Threads and on Instagram. Super_not_funny show at gmail.com. And of course, super_not_funny show on TikTok. And thanks to Corey Roy again for coming in, letting us know everything that you feel about this movie, this great movie. But where can they reach you on social media?
Look, everybody, you guys can reach me at Corey Roy underscore all over the interwebs, TikTok, Instagram. And yeah, you can check out my YouTube page, The Geek Spot. Got a lot of good stuff over there. But once again, Mo, it's always a pleasure coming on here, man. So I greatly appreciate you having me. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely, and come back. Man, the MCU. We're on this Infinity rewatch, and it's 30 something odd movies. So
So,
I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to call you back in,
hey, man, I'm
so we
ready.
could, yeah, so we could chop it up, because this MCU train, it just don't stop. But with that being said, Thanks for joining us on the Marvel Infinity Rewatch podcast. Come back again for the next episode. You know what we're going to be talking about. The Avengers, the possibly the greatest superhero movie of all time. We're going to talk about that later. So until then, I have been Mo, your comic extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.